Preparing to live stream, and we are live.
Hello, ladies. Welcome, everyone. Thank you on behalf of the Charlotte Black Film Festival and founder, Mr. Tommy Nichols. Thank you all for being here to have this discussion, this very important discussion. Um, the panel itself, the reason I asked you ladies to come about, and also thanks to Miss Miko here. I'm getting some film back, everyone. Okay, thank you. I don't know where it's coming from. But thank you all for being here. There's a film called The Talk that was featured at the Charlotte Black Film Festival this year. And the talk is centered around the talk from the perspective that Black mothers have with their Black sons versus what the talk means when women in families in other cultures have the talk. And for those of you out there who actually saw the film, you would have seen where as people were being interviewed, there was only one culture that came back to the talk from the perspective of the Black mother, and that was the perspective of the Black mother. For everyone else in the talk had something to do with sex education, mainly getting a good education. Let me stop a minute and acknowledge Miss Shay Clark. Thank you, Shay, for joining us. It looks like she's popping in. All right, thank you, and welcome, Miss Clark. We appreciate you being here. Breathe, it's okay. Just so that you know, you're muted right now. So you can unmute yourself. And ladies, all of you can unmute yourselves if you like. But I want to thank the film director, the writers, the producers for creating this particular film because the film inspired this conversation. And based on the contact that we've had up until this point, I think we're all in agreement that for some reason or another reason, we all, as Black mothers of Black sons, need to have this conversation. So let me start this way and let me go around the room and ask everyone to introduce yourselves and tell us something about you. As a matter of fact, tell us your son's name and why it's important for you to be here. And let's start with you, Benita.
Hi, my name is Benita Winchester. My son is Aaron Winchester. He was taken away in 2008. He was gunned down by a CMPD police officer, shot in the back twice. And I'm here to speak to the other mothers that's out there that don't know the feeling of not knowing if your son is going to return home. So that's my story.
Thank you. What about you, Stantavia?
Hey, my name is Stantavia Wright, and my son's name is Jaquavian Barber. I'm 21 years old, and just speaking on his experience with CMPD as well as undercover police officers and security guards. And my heart goes out to you, Miss Bonita, Miss Miko, Miss Shay. Um, yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Stantavia. How about you, Miss Miko? I know you
Well,
have a lot to say. I can see it on your face.
no. I'm Miko McCarthy. Everybody
Yes.
calls me Miko Chosen. My son is Larico Williams. He was murdered July the 20th, 2011 by a CMPD police officer. The reason why I want to get on this call is because I remember the last words that my son said when he walked out the door, and he told us, "I love y'all and I see y'all tomorrow." And that day never come. We got robbed of that.
Mhm.
So I try to be a voice for a lot of people that are scared to speak up. I do a lot of community advocacy work. A lot of people can reach out to me, and if they're going through things and don't really know how to fix it or where to go, where to start, I try to be a connector to help bridge that when they're going through a trying time.
So you said something that I'm going to come back to that has something to do with the conversation that Miss Stantavia and I had. So thank you for that very, very much. Miss Shay Clark, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I apologize for my tardiness, but I am Shay Clark. My son's name is Stefan Clark, and my reason for wanting to be here is that my son will be 21 in September on the 18th. And it's very important for me to know that he is a young Black man in a country who does not love him. And it's very important for him to understand that. But in the conversations that he and I have been having, that's not something that he's clear on. So having to have these constant conversations with him is very difficult because he's young. He's very smart, but he's very stubborn. So these conversations are some that I have to continue to have. And the fact that I have to have these conversations at all is very heartbreaking.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me take a minute, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Watkins, for joining us. I know it was last minute. I apologize for the time discrepancy. So welcome, unmute yourself and tell everyone about you. Everyone, Ms. Watkins is the film director. I got that right, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? And thank you so very much. I was wondering. I said, I don't think this is supposed to be happening now, but thanks for clearing that up. So as you guys know, the name of the film is called The Talk. Did I lose you?
No, you're fine. You're
Oh,
fine.
okay. The name of the film is called The Talk, and it was actually I was actually supposed to speak to a group of women who had the same concerns as myself, but it ended up being just me and my son, and it turned out pretty great as well. But I'm looking forward to making it a feature where I speak to other parents who have similar concerns, and not just for little boys, but for girls too.
Right.
So it's one of those things that is, as they call it, evergreen topic, because it constantly goes on. When I made this film, George Floyd situation hadn't even happened yet. You know what I mean? So we went back inside to edit, to add him amongst the many others who have been taken away from us unjustly. So this is a big deal.
It absolutely is a big deal. And I'll tell you personally, we've all had an opportunity to watch the film. And I'll tell you, for me, and I've shared with folks, that I had to pause the film twice, at least twice, while I was watching it, because what I saw was me and my son. The conversation I heard word for word is the conversation that I have with my son over and over again. My godchildren, my nephews. So it's really a privilege to sit here in the room with all of these women who have sons. All of us have had different experiences, but that anxiety that we carry as Black women in America who have Black sons, for those of you who have lost your sons in the worst ways possible, and for the women in the room who have not lost their sons, but their sons have experienced something that has significantly changed who they are and who has significantly changed who you are. And there's a certain weight that as Black mothers, I think that we carry that nobody else has any idea about what that feels like. So something that I like to talk about amongst my circle and my circle of friends, I get this question, well, why are Black women so angry? That is a question that we can answer right here. Is it that we're angry with the world, or is it that we're angry about how our children are viewed in the United States, how our children, how our sons are treated? Is it that anxiety that we carry, that weight on our shoulders that we carry day in and day out, every day, no matter where we go, with that question mark on our shoulders? Are our children okay? Is my father okay? Is my uncle, my brother, my son, my daughters, as you said, Ms. Watkins, are they okay? And are we going to be okay when we get home? So with that said, Ms. Miko, let me ask you this, or let me go back to you. You said something a few minutes ago that related to a healing. When Stantavia and I talked a few days ago, and I hope it's okay to share this,
fine.
Stantavia. Something that I love that she shared with me was that not only do I want to be in the room to share my story, share my son's story, but I would like some advice as to how I can heal too. And for me, that stuck out to me. That stuck out to me significantly. And based on the contents of the film itself, to hear the same conversation had over and over again amongst Black mothers is powerful. And I shared with Miko and Bonita that me personally, as a Black mother or as a mother of a Black son, I didn't give myself permission to even feel that anxiety, or should I say to acknowledge that anxiety until earlier this year. But I've carried it year after year after year. But my sole purpose, like you ladies, has been to raise our children, raise them well, teach them how to go out into the community and to be a positive force in their communities. And lastly, to come home. But what happens when they don't come home for one reason or another? Miss Bonita, what are your thoughts on that? Is there anything that you would like to share in particular about your experience? As a matter of fact, let's talk about everyone's individual experiences, if you all don't mind sharing that with everybody.
Well, the experience of that day was overwhelming. It was more like a shock because when he left home, he said, "I love you," and we responded, "We love you too."
Mhm.
And before he left, it was certain things that happened that day that were warning signs. He earned his shirt like he never earns, and he earned his shirt so well and crisp. I said, "Wow!" I walked past him. I said, "Wow, you're earning that shirt like I've never seen you earn before." And so he just looked at me and smiled. So by the time I got to the scene, the way that I identified my son was that shirt. So to know that he would never be home again was like a nightmare. It's a dream that I still haven't woke from. It's like in my mind, I say he's gone away to school or college or, and I try not to think about that he's not coming back home. And he has a son that has to be told the same things that you guys have to tell your future men and women that, there's a chance out there, just be safe and understand that there are some danger zones out there you want to stay clear of. And, it's a killing field. And, whether it be CMPD, whether it be any police officer or, it's so much out here for these kids that to just stray away. There are gangs, there, the drug game, the war game, it's so many other things that they could go do. Some of them are innocently just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, these mothers aren't going to get to see their sons anymore. And for that's why I speak out so much, because I wouldn't want anybody to go through this pain. It's the most horrific pain. They say childbirth is a pain. It's nothing compared to the soul being ripped out of you because somebody decided that day that your son or your daughter won't be coming back home. So that's why I hang in there like I do, to try to make sure that other mothers, don't feel this pain. I don't know what happened to my girl. She like disappeared.
I think we lost her.
Yeah.
I think Bonita made her cry.
No.
I think so.
Oh, please. I'm usually the one to make you laugh, but I don't want you to cry.
What you're saying is true. A lot of people don't think about that feeling, and then a lot of people don't think about, after the fact, when you look at every time you see the officer involved shooting, the effects that it had to us or on us, which, I mean, nobody really cares about how nobody feel about anything. But it's like opening up that same wound because you already know you like it's the same story,
Right.
scene, it's the same characters. We know
Right.
what's said. They use the same old sales pitch. It's like it's almost like you go to the same car lot and you know that they sell regular cars. And you know,
Right.
And then it is very, it's very, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this discussion, and it's not just with my son, it's with any Black male that I'm in, charge of that I encounter, because there's a lot of things that these kids don't know.
Right.
I live in a neighborhood that is, let's just call it, diverse, and I send my son out to walk the dogs, and I'll literally panic, like, oh, what if he encounters somebody not familiar with him? And I'm running downstairs, and it's like, no, why do we have to live this way? But I can't take no chances.
Right.
It's like, and who wants to live this way? So that's why we have to bring the awareness, and not just to our kids, but to other people that don't look like us, so that they
Right.
know, because he have on a hoodie and he walking with Skittles or he's eating Skittles, he's not a problem. You don't.
And I'll comment till Cynthia come back. But it's interesting. When I grew up, we had such a neighborhood that it was really a village, and that needs to return. So that if your son walks out, and I might live 3 blocks over, but yeah, guess what? He's covered if he's on my
Right.
block. You follow? So we need to return back to where that village really is. And I'm encouraging more men to be more visible, more engaging. Meaning, I never let young men pass by me without speaking to them. I'm talking trash, but I'm gonna say something to them. If they got a basketball, I'm challenging them. I'm saying I'm going to get my shoes. I'm going to the store. I ain't going to get my shoes, but I'm gonna talk trash just to make that connection with them. They'll laugh or whatever. And so it is tough. And as young men, we don't want, younger men. They don't want you to worry about them. Mom, I got this. I'm sure you get it all the time. Mom, I got this. Mom, I'm cool. And all the time. And so it's one of those things that we really need to restore the village so that you can have more peace about, where your son is going, what he's doing. You know what I mean?
More peace of mind. Absolutely.
But Ms. Watkins, talk about the film. Where did this come from? Just talk about the whole process of you creating this film, your thoughts about this film, and like a good filmmaker, when one plan doesn't happen, we flip the game, and you did that. So talk about how you created this film.
So I to be honest, I had another film that I was supposed to do, and it was regarding one of my very close friends who her daughter was shot and killed in the neighborhood that we're from, and she agreed to do the story. And she had been fighting because there was some discrepancy about if there had been cameras in the housing development, there's things that would have went another way. And in the middle of prompting her and getting my film together, she died.
Wow.
And so that was like devastating in itself. And after, laying her to rest and, getting past that part, I had to come up with another idea quite naturally. So initially I reached out to like 5 or 6 different women, because I had no plan to be in the movie. I'm doing my thing directing, and so there were 5 different women who actually felt in different parts of the 5 boroughs, who felt that they had this thing in common with regard to this major concern about their teenage children. And they were actually, it just so happened that they were all boys. They were teenage boys that the concern was up for. And so we had lined everything up. Everything was set to go. And at the last minute, one person, I had been reaching her because I was actually going to Staten Island to pick her up. And she said she had left her phone at work, so she didn't even know I was calling. And that's another thing with these phones. If you don't write numbers down or keep them in your mental Rolodex, you just out of whack with that. And at the last minute, it was just so much stuff came up, and I was like really stressed out. Like, what am I gonna do? And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the film. I'm going to do it about me. And that's just really where the idea came, because it was an honest idea, because I do have concerns about my son. I just didn't have any plans on being in the movie, you know,
Yeah.
but it turned around that I had to be in the movie, and I assembled my group and my people. Those people that you see at the beginning of the film, I do not know them. I just walked up and down 125th Street, and I was like, listen, I need some people. And that's how it ended up sparking to get them involved in the film. But it started just happening for me. Like it just, everything came together, so to speak, in regards to what the dialogue of the film would really be about.
Good, good. And you know, when I think about some of you ladies, no parent can, it's hard to fathom bearing your child. And when you guys, you know, I just applaud your strength. And now it's like you've turned that to advocacy and ministry. I heard ministry earlier when I was offline. How do you get to the place of, we know not all officers are bad, but here you have your child having this encounter with police officers. How were you able to, or if you're in process to be able to believe, or do you even trust? Is there a level of trust, or how were you able to gain that trust? Talk about that process, and because this is real, where you are, and what do you think it would take for that? If
Well, I mean, that gentleman that's in the movie, I invited him to this panel. I think he's actually trying to get in. He is an officer. And a lot of the things that he said was very true, because I have some friends that are officers that tell me how they're trained, and there's a difference in the way the officers are trained to handle different ethnicities. You know, that's
Right,
not a myth, that's a
right,
fact.
right,
And I do know for a fact that not all officers are this way. You know, just based off the fact that one, I'm a correction officer. Well, I'm a retired New York State correction officer, but just having friends in law enforcement, I know that they're not, you know, not all of them are this way, you know, and there's a fine line between trying to convey this to a child on what to look out for, and how you know that, you know what I mean, you're not about to be victimized. And, you know, the main thing about this film was surviving the encounter. That was like,
mm-hmm.
you know what I mean,
That's
the
important.
big deal, because that's important, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And even with regard to my son, you saw in the film when he said, well, if he's going to give me an attitude, I'm going to give him an attitude. And I'm like, no, right. you cannot do that. This is not, we don't, you know, you can't do that, you know.
That question, I, for the ladies, I want to talk to the ladies who've lost their child to the hands of police. What has been your process? What has been your process in that? You know, and you know, you know, and I'm sure it went from, you can go from hate to, it could be a whole level of emotions in that whole piece. But can you guys share any of that? Ms. Shay, Ms. Benita, Ms. Mika?
Well, with me, it's still an ongoing process.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that all of them are bad, but the few I've encountered, the training process, it needs to be more of they need a process of handling mental states of mind and communication, and that bad guy theory of them. They need to drop it, because the attitudes of some that I've met are extremely overwhelming, but all of them aren't like that. I work with the public and I see them every day. And it's you know, it's not even the individual that triggers me. It's the uniform. It's the sight of the gun. So I have to work through that myself. I've had a long time to do that, and sometimes it's nauseating, but I've learned to lean on the Most High for stability and strength to go through from day to day, to know and understand that, you know, you're not alone. There are others out here that feel that pain that you feel, but you don't want that pain to go anywhere else. So try to get into as many avenues as you can to help other mothers understand that, you know, it's a rough road, but it's a road that I've been given, and it's not like I can say, oh, I'm just gonna throw this road back. No, I can't. It's here. I'm dealing with it, and it's the new life for me and my family. Not that it's been easy for any of us, but I'm not saying that all cops are bad either. It's just that some of them are so arrogant, but that's another story. That's the anger part that I feel. But like I said, I get my help from the Most High, and I depend on Him truly day and night. And I ask that anyone watching this that has lost a son or a daughter, that if you could trigger your anger and know that there is a higher being that was done much worse than our children were. So I just ask that, don't look at every cop as a bad cop, but just, teach your children that, that's even with another adult, be respectable, give respect where respect is due, because a lot of young folks, now I count a lot of young folks, they are very, high-minded and can be disrespectful at times, but you have to understand that they're young and it's a new world that they're living in. Like we said, that village, if we could get that village back, that would be a lot of help. It would make a lot of change, that village. Because when I got in trouble down the street, when I went home, my mama knew it, and I got whooping down there and a whooping when I got home. So that village is a very important thing to bring back to the Black community. Now, I know that, Hispanics, they have their own community, and they work together, and they put everybody in one house, then everybody branch out. These things are we're the only ones not doing these things. We like crabs in the bucket. We're not going to let each other, and we're always argumentative with family members. We got to learn that love is the key word that we need right now in this society that we're living in, because it's crumbling.
Yeah. Miko, how about you?
Some bricks.
Yeah. Miko, how about you?
Well, for me, I think the phobia part is anytime one of my other kids called me and they're involved in a traffic stop. Because when I got the phone call about my son's interaction, I was about to go and something stopped me at the door from going out the door, because I really don't know how I would have acted if I would have went out there to the scene and seen my son out there on that ground. I might not be here talking to you today. So, and that's just being honest. So, God don't put no more than He feel that you can bear.
Absolutely.
When you sit back for people that might not be spiritually in tune, I just say for those that are not spiritually in tune, if you know somebody that weathered that storm, sometimes you got to build a unity amongst each other. You got to build a connection, because these therapists, to me, some of them are washed up. They have heard too much. They traumatized. They suffer from PTSD.
My.
PTSD. This therapist is mental. If my therapist is popping a bunch of pills and sitting looking like a zombie. So, I'm just speaking fact. You gotta really look at those avenues. And I know from just dealing with a lot of different people that even when I was dealing with, like my nephew example, taking him to a therapist, I never forget it. Took him 4 times, and the therapist kept asking me the same thing every 4 times. How long has he been in the care of social service? And I'm like, he's not in the care of social service. So the third time he kind of pissed me off, and I told him, I said, well, you're not listening to me. You can't be up in him. So when he took him in the back, he started asking questions about me because he got pissed off because I checked. But again, when you're looking at the fear of our kids, it's not even just our Black boys. We got to look at our Black women.
Yeah.
They have been put on these pedestals as sex symbols, and the little young girls feel like the only thing they need to do is shake it and bust it and drop it. That's all they know. And it's for likes, it's for attention. But sex trafficking is real.
Right.
Predators are real.
Yeah.
Through history, and then I guess they're looking at, now we want to say, we put a label on it and we call it sex trafficking. Now we're made more of aware of something that's been going on. Right. So that goes back to policing in the community. To have the cops that the kids run to give the stickers, do engagement, walk up to the people, might say, come on, man, give you a warning. Wasn't about arresting, wasn't about flexing, wasn't about the uniform. It's like the cops now, the people that they're getting, they put their uniform on, they become possessed.
Yes.
And that they got to get that demon out of them.
Yeah.
Until they get that demon, whatever that they battle, they want to inflict it. I've seen white cops ride on West Boulevard and playing black music through the intercom system. I called in and said, that's what my tax dollars paying for? Because I know if a black cop go in Valentine and play some Garth Brooks through that, he won't have no.
That's right.
Right. And so let me ask you guys this question. You guys remember what was the last conversation you had with your son or daughter in reference to what we see? And let's talk about centered around George Floyd. What was the conversation that you had with them? Share that with us. Let's go with you, Ms. Wright.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Yeah.
Me and my son talk frequently now. And while I do have the second, I do want to say thank you, Miko, so much. When my son was going through a situation with CMPD in Norfolk and that whole thing, everybody I was reaching out to either wanted to charge me for their advice or they wanted to use that as a chance for them to get on TV and, you know, parade around the cameras and stuff like that just for their own reasons or agenda. But I was led to Miko. And when I say she had the purest heart, like, I mean, I could have, one person even offered me, hey, I bring, I'm not going to say the lady's name out for an additional $200. That'll gain a lot of attention, you know, and get a lot of cameras out. But, you know, Miko had a pure heart. She was like, oh, no, ma'am. You're going to deal with me. I'm going to help you through this situation. She got me where I needed to be, in front of the people that I needed to be. She gave me great legal advice. She held me and my son's hand from the day after he was arrested to the day after he won his lawsuit.
Wow.
So it's like she was there every step, and he is so crazy about Miko. Like that's he like, Mom, she crazy, but I love her. I love her. So
the ones you love, the crazy ones, them the ones you love.
Right. I mean, she yank him up when he get out of line, you know, and that's the type of love that my son, you know, appreciates and everything. So I did want to take a second and say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. You literally saved my son. You really saved my son's life. And I appreciate you and everybody else and Mr. Rob, all y'all. That was just all together that teamed up. It was a whole team of them. And I appreciate you so much. But
awesome.
Your
Question.
question.
Felt like, you know, he was young and I just seen the look and me as a mother, and I'm looking at you as another mother. I could see the hurt and it was like it was weighing on you so bad physically and mentally. And it was like you was at that point like, I usually know everything, but this is something I can't fix.
Yeah.
So I do that look, you know, because a lot of times people don't know how to identify that look. Sometimes we don't want to be judged. We just want to be guided.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what when I seen that look, and I told you, I said, well, this is how we'll do it. And even with him, I could see it was beating him. It's like it was weighing on him. You looking at the things from football, just all the opportunities that he had. And then it's like, you know, y'all looking at me and I can see the look on his face. It's like, y'all know me. Y'all act like now y'all don't know me.
Yeah.
So I was hurting him more than anything. It's like, it's almost like I'm trying to justify myself. Why am I justifying myself? Y'all know me. I'm not a stranger. So when I seen, you know, it was being overwhelming, and it was like a weight, and you trying to lift him and you getting down. It was like, nah, come on, I can help y'all, you know, and we're gonna go where we need to go. And you know, it's about sisterhood, you know.
Yeah. So Ms. Clark, let me come to you. Talk about your last conversation. You know, and Ms. Wright, you skipped over, but we're gonna come back to you.
Oh, okay.
But I love the testimonies, and I have, before I get off here, I'm gonna share something with you, mothers who've lost a son, that I hope encourage you, and that's a prime example of what I'm gonna share with you. But Ms. Clark, talk about the last conversation you had with your son concerning this.
The last conversation I had with my son was actually just a few weeks ago. He was leaving to go with a friend. And I told him, I said, please be careful. His response was, Mom, you know me, I'm always careful.
We say that.
My response back was, I trust you. I just don't trust everybody else.
Mhm.
And having to be able to say that is really heartbreaking, because there used to be a time where I didn't mind him going outside. I didn't mind him being with his friends. I knew his friends, and I knew that they would all be safe because they were all a specific type of kid. But even with me knowing, I have to understand that everybody else doesn't know. Because he's the type that wears the hoodies and the ripped up skinny jeans and the tennis shoes and, you know, the ear pods and the phone, and he fits the description. And the night that he fit the description was the scariest night of my life.
Wow.
Wow.
I was at work and he got detained for 2.5 hours. My mother called me and said, Stefan is not home yet. And I was like, he should have been back like 45, 50 minutes ago. What happened? Because all he did was he took a walk to the store. A walk to the store. He fit the description of four young men who stole a car and left the car in the parking lot of the store he was going to. Now he's just arriving and they detained him, figuring that he had come back to the scene of the crime. And when I tell you that my main concern was whether or not he was going to come back home in one piece, not even alive, but in one piece, was my major concern. And when I tell you, I was so distraught at work, I left. I left work 3.5 hours early because there was no way I would stay until midnight, because that was my shift. My shift ended at midnight. There was no way I was not going to be there for my son. So I left and I came home only to find out that he was fine. He was shaken up, but he was fine. But to know that your son has been detained and you don't know what that means, that's all they'll tell you. Oh, he's been detained. That's it. That's all you can tell me. He's been detained. Well, what does that mean? Is he in handcuffs? Are you just talking to him? I couldn't get anything out of the police officer. He's been detained. So when he finally came home, the police officers brought him to the house, came to the house, opened the door. I wasn't there. My mom was there. And they asked her, does he live here? My mother was more upset than when I got home, because she was like, of course he lives here. They were like, of course he lives here. What's the problem? Well, we had to detain him because he fit the description of 4 young Black men who stole a car and left it in the parking lot. That hurt me so badly. And just to know that he had this experience was more hopeful to me than it was to him, because he was like, Mom, he was like, I'm a Black kid. At some point in my life, it was gonna happen.
Wow.
He was like, I'm shaking up, but he was like, I'll be all right. Now, mind you, for 2 weeks thereafter, my son didn't go anywhere.
Right.
He went nowhere. And that bothered me because he's an outdoor kid. He likes to play basketball. He likes to, walk around the neighborhood. He likes to, be with his friends. He likes to hang out. And for him not to do that bothered me, because that's the kind of kid that he is.
So that brings me to a question, and I apologize to everyone. The power blinked out here, I guess due to a storm.
And let me leave. Let me say this before I leave. I'm going to leave. Let me say this. And I want to say this to the mothers who have lost sons. And I've heard this somewhere, and I believe it is to be fact. When a seed goes into the ground, that you can expect for fruit to come forward. And when I heard the story of Miss Wright and Miko, imagine what has occurred in the ministry you guys have taken on, Benita, in other lives of other boys and other children, because of the seed, the sacrificial seed that went into the ground. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Other kids would not be impacted. Ms. Wright said, you saved her son's life. Because of the seed that went into the ground, you guys are bearing much fruit in the lives of many families. And that's what I want to encourage you guys with that. Encourage you with that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank
It
you.
was.
So let me ask all of you ladies, I have a couple of questions. That was a very powerful and meaningful bit of insight that Mr. Nichols just gave us. How do you ladies feel about that? Anybody can start. What does that stir up any particular feeling for you? Does that statement give anyone any comfort at all? Or what is it that you feel?
It is comforting to know that his life meant something. It's still meaning something.
Mhm.
So that being said, with him being, you know, like a sacrifice to let others know, to ease the pain of other mothers, to let them know that they're not alone. It's a great feeling. That was beautiful. I loved it. And that's what my goal is, to make sure that it's not forgotten, that we have Floyd's here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have, Mr. Brown's here in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And we don't want these people here to be forgotten. We don't want anyone to be forgotten. But for that to be said, it was a great comfort to know that this fight is worth fighting.
Absolutely. And while I was rejoining, I had heard someone mention that this is a sisterhood. It's a type of club that no one wants to be a part of, but you just are. So I think that was really, really powerful. What do you think, Stantavia?
I think what he said was very beautiful. And I appreciate everyone on here, the sacrifice that you made. Like, my heart goes out to you so much. But like he said, it's like your kids are living through you. It's like you're putting it back out there because of the experience, unfortunate experience that you went through. You have the strength and the courage and the knowledge to help lead other parents that's going through it and other mothers that's going through it, because I would have been totally lost. I would have just wasted money for a performance. I
Right.
would have just, my son would probably have went to prison. I mean, I know it, had I not been guided correctly. I mean, even with everyone knowing he was innocent of the crime he was accused of, the DA was still pressuring us to take a plea, just accept one of the charges and we'll throw out the other 3 charges. No, it was actually 5 total. So we'll throw out the other 4 charges. Just take one. And if you stay on the straight and narrow until you're 18, then that'll disappear. And to someone that just wanted to get out of that situation and be done with it, they would have been like, okay. Because I know my son, a good son, he can make it till he's 18 and not get in trouble. I couldn't go out like that because he was not guilty of what you accused him of. I mean, I just could not go out like that. And no one wanted to hear me. And the people that would entertain me just looked at me as a meal ticket to get in front of cameras. But then you have like this light that comes that's surrounding this person that steps into your life and is like, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna show you. So I agree with what he said about that. That analogy is perfect.
So I think so too. And where did you actually draw the strength? What you said is something that I think a lot of families and a lot of Black men face constantly, that, hey, I have choice A over here that says I can go home today. But if I make choice B and I don't succumb to the pressure, there's a possibility that I will lose many years of my life. My family will lose many years with me. So where did you draw that strength to just say, oh no, it's not going down like this, son? You're going to stand strong and we're going to stand with you. Where did that strength come from?
Just being stubborn, be honest with you. Because it's like, I know when I know something and I
Mhm.
know it, it's like, no, I can't. The love for my son and to have him with me every day. Now, you are right. I was facing not being able to see him for 18 months. That was the consequence, or whatever would have been 18 months or whatever. So I knew what I was up against, but I just believed, for one, and a higher power, and then for two, that the higher power had put in place people in my life that was going to guide me correctly. Because after I made the connections that I made, and Miss Miko started talking to my son, it was like everything just lifted off of my shoulders. I had no more doubts. I could sleep at night. My son could sleep at night. My son would still walk into the same place he was accused of his crime with his head held high. He got arrested a second time for trespassing, but it was like, well, y'all didn't tell me I couldn't come back. You remember
Oh,
me?
no.
It's like, you couldn't tell me I couldn't come back. I ain't do nothing wrong or
Uh,
whatever. And this was after the charges were dropped. This is when the case was over. We was now into a civil, lawsuit. But I guess, he likes to shop. So he still went, but it was like I had to fight for him, and I knew I made the right decision when I was able to sleep well at night.
mm.
That's just when I knew it was real. I had no more worries or whatever, and the hardest part was actually going to trial and seeing the officer that picked my son up by his neck and slammed him down on his neck. And
Tell
to
us
see
what
his
what
dad,
was that like? What
it
was
was heartbreaking. But as women, we carry so much, so it's like I can't react on how I feel, because now this my son dad sitting beside me. This the raging bull that I'm trying to keep quiet and tame or whatever while all this was going on. But it was the most I don't know. I think I was just anxious at that time, seeing him coming face to face, and then seeing him lie on the stand about what happened or whatever, not knowing that we're about to present you with the videotape
Mm.
that's going to contradict everything you just stood and testified and gave. Oh, we're about to play this tape in open court so that everybody can see the truth, and my son can finally put this behind him, which he never really can put it behind him.
Mhm.
So, that was the hardest part, was just actually seeing them face to face again.
How would you say you've been changed from this experience with your son, knowing that your son did come home, unlike some of the other mothers on the panel?
Right. So to see the growth that happened with my son because of this. My son's never a bad guy. My son was just a typical 16-year-old. At that time, was in to have the hair and wear the clothes and, like you say, the hoodie and everything like that. But what he took away from it was the one thing I have been trying to tell him the whole time, is the perception. Is what they think they know about you. How you look is what you are, and that's just that. So it was that mindset that he had to say, I want to be an individual. I want people to know that I'm a good person. It sucks that I got to conform and change my appearance to appease someone else and make them think that they feel safe because I have on a blazer today, or because I done cut my hair off or whatever. It's a different respect that he gets now. I mean, he's 21 now, and this happened when he was 16, but he changed all of those, characteristics that, and plus, I mean, he grew up. He's a young man now. He's not but you know, it's just hard that somebody have to change the way they feel, the way they talk, the way they walk, the way they dress, just to make other people feel safe.
Mhm.
It's horrible.
I completely understand. And, with that, again, it's one of the conversations that comes up over and over and over again. And that brings me to Miko again. as an activist in the community and as a soft place for mothers to fall, but a strong place at the same time. And for these young men who are coming home, being that for them, how is it that you're able to handle that type of responsibility on a daily basis? Is there anything that has changed about you from the time when you lost your son to now when you embrace the sons of other mothers? Unmute yourself for us. There you go.
The only thing that I would say is that the bond, because this was my road dog. I can go anywhere. I don't care if I say I want to be Christopher Columbus. They'd be like, all right, I'm going. My other son would be like, no, Mom, I'm finna go to work. I gotta go. No. So with that, that's like the only thing I say when it comes to that. But when you're looking at the strength that I got from it, I look at them as like one of mine. I'm just gonna be straight to the point. I don't sugarcoat it. And I think that's the thing. People say, well, if you don't want the truth, then you don't probably want to go talk to her because she's fixing to give it to you. It's going to be unfiltered. So it's not going to stroke their egos, and I tell them what they need to hear. Sometimes that's what they want. And it's how you can say certain things to get your point across. So I think that's just pretty much it. Where they can feel relaxed, and sometimes kids feel more comfortable talking to somebody else than their parents. And sometimes they need a person that can be a mediator. Because I'm just to the point, I'm like, whatever you did or done, I don't care. I'd rather for you to tell me the truth. So then we'll know how to fix it. But if you tell a lie, we can't fix it, because then that lie that you're trying to cover up, then now we have to, when something blow up, then it's like, well, I asked you. So now I can fix it. So I'd rather for you to be upfront. I always said, I don't care. I don't judge. So I think that's the biggest things, that I don't look at what they're doing, how they doing it, and when they doing it. Is okay, what you got going on. Now, okay, let's fix it. So I think that's like the biggest thing. I just don't judge.
And that's powerful, to give somebody a place they can come and not be looked down upon for anything they've ever done. What you know is probably going to be said about them at some point. You know, that's a really strong place to be in the community. And thank you for being that. As that's something that we need in our community, in our households, and amongst Black women with Black children. So that's pretty powerful. And Miss Benita, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to any mother out there who has lost their son, whether that loss is a death, has been a death, whether that loss is imprisonment, anything? What would you say to mothers out there that might begin to help them to start the healing process?
Well, I mean, we all have a different healing process. What worked for me may not work for someone else, but my healing process came from a few things. The joy of seeing my grandchildren, to see his son, you know, to find strength to say, you know, you got to carry on, because you do have other children that need your strength, you know, for their kids. And you're no good to anybody if you're messed up mentally, if you're just in this dark place in life. If you're like that, then it's like an ivy. It grows, you know, it'll connect to the next person and to the next person. So to break that chain is a great feeling, to know that, you know, and friends like Miko to say, you know, here's another thing we need to be at. Here's another talk we need to do. Is another, you know, we need to go here. We need to do this. And if I'm in a slump, then I can't do those things to represent Aaron. And it's why you other mothers, you know, represent them as often as you can, and don't let their memory go to waste. Even the ones that are still here, you mothers that still have your children, you know, you have to not give up. Just keep keep the strength going. You know, sometimes they can make you so mad, you be like, you know what, oh, okay then. Don't, because they're worth that struggle. They're worth that I got you. You know what I'm saying? They're worth that strength for you and them. So to the other mothers, just hang on in there. And you know, prayer was my comforter and still is, and the Most High. And you know, you have to find your strength, what's best for you. I planted a garden. That's my thing every year. I'll plant me a garden. To see something grow is a beautiful thing. You know, maybe get the kids out there, maybe get your grandkids out there. You know, let's just, that community thing, let's link back up. And you know, you guys have a lot of future ahead of you. You know, you have beautiful children. I've never met them, but from listening to your stories, you know, they're all individuals and they have their own walk of life to go through. And if you know, can do anything else, just hang on in there. Just hang in there. Go and pull your big panties up, because it's a long ride. You know what I'm saying? I still got some adult children. It's a long ride. And then they have children. So the ride continues. So just hang in.
Amen. There are three things that I heard you say in particular. I heard you say prayer. I heard you make a reference to connections, making connections with friends, folks out there in the community, other people who understand your walk of life. And I also heard you say that there's empowerment through participation. So, in other words, don't stay out there alone. Engage during those times when you feel like staying at home, not talking to anyone, sitting in a corner somewhere. Work against that feeling and go out there and be with someone. Make those connections so that you can continue to represent your children, in your case, your son, in a great way. And through that representation and through his children, you're receiving a healing for yourself as well. Does that sound pretty accurate?
That's it.
Okay, so I'm doing pretty good. And Miss Watkins, this film was surrounding you and the two young men in the film. When I watched, and if I cover something, you all, that you talked about while I was away, I do apologize. I had a power outage here, but just let me know. We talked about that already. I'll tell you later. So, but the young men, I noticed that when they were going through the demonstration of being taught how to, what's the word I want to use? How to respond in a particular situation, opposed to how to react in a particular situation. They laughed. I'm not sure if that laughter was because they were enjoying the process or they were uncomfortable, or a combination of the two. Based on your conversations with those young men, what do you think it was? Or what did you discover it was?
Well, initially, I was concerned about that, and not too much. What ended up happening is, at the time, they were much younger. So to them, it was like a formality going through the motions. But at that age, that's how kids behave. You know what I mean? So though it was a very serious situation we were trying to walk through, because I initially started to take it out and have them do it over and be very serious. But the thing about it is, I want people to see that they're kids, and kids, they're behaving like kids in that scene, you know? And so that was powerful. And that was a toss up of trying to send mixed messages, because I didn't want it to seem like they thought this was, funny. But then that was their natural state. They were behaving like kids. And so I left it in. And I'm glad you touched on that, because that was sort of a big piece to the film. They're kids, and kids behave like kids. And it's these situations that make them have to grow up before their time, and have to understand things that technically we have to do, because to my knowledge, I don't know any other ethnicities that have to have this kind of dialogue with their children, you know? So yeah, that was a factor in the film.
Well, I'm so glad that you left that in there because that was my takeaway. Our children are just children. And what I contrast that to is when Shay said, her son Stefan said to her when she told her son, son, be careful. And he said, Ma, I'm always careful. And her intention was, I really just want you to come back. But for him to respond, Ma, I'm a black guy, a black boy in America. Something is bound to happen sooner or later. I've heard that from my own son. I've heard that from other young black men and young black boys in the community. And I think it's just such a tragic thing that our children live with that on a daily basis. And now to the point that they don't react in a way that you might think they would. But for them now, it's just a point of acceptance. And mom, this is what it is. This is my life. So why are you stressed out about it? Why are you so upset? You know, and did you get any of that? Maybe not from your children, but now that they're older, do they look back and say, man, you know, I responded as a kid, but with everything that has happened since the film has been made, do they have a different perspective at all?
Oh
Or
yeah,
do they just sit
definitely.
with it?
Definitely. The other young man, his name is Sion. That's my girlfriend's son. And I would say, as of recent, I haven't had the opportunity to talk with him, but I will be talking to him this week regarding the festival.
Mhm.
But my son definitely has a different outtake because he's a little older now. And he mentioned how, you know, like it was just exciting for him to be in a movie. I don't think he even really understood the magnitude of what we were doing when we were doing it, even though he knew it was serious, especially the scene when we're home and I have him, but we're doing the role play, you know. I don't know if you were able to pick up on it, but there was a period when I changed my voice and he got a little shook there. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm
Mhm.
telling them, I'm like, you know, to me, you're my child, but in the street, they see you as they'll call you a black man. It's not like a black child. You are a man, and so that's the difference in how things are handled. But he definitely sees, you know, there's been some growth, I should say, and we sit down and we watched everything regarding George Floyd and others that were, you know, killed in similar fashion or stopped or detained or hurt while in police custody. And so he, as now as a 16-year-old, he definitely understands, you know, and I hate to frighten him, but this is the reality for our children in terms of
Unfortunately.
having to have this talk.
Uh-huh. And unfortunately, and something that I noticed about you in the film is that as the film went along, you became a little more, or you appeared to become a little more frustrated as time went along because you were trying to get your son and his friend to understand that this is a serious matter. And again, it went back, for me, it went back to that thing of children being children and acting like children, and our young black sons getting to a point where they just feel like this is a normal everyday thing. So
Right.
at some point it's going to happen. But from a mother's perspective, we're always still trying to protect. And when they begin to pull away and walk in their own way, or we just can't seem to get them to understand, you know, son, this is serious. I need you to understand. I know you're sick of hearing me say it, but I've got to say it and I've got to show you. And here's what my son says: Ma, I've got this. Ma, I've got this. This is what his friends say too. But I always go back to the thought of, we always think we've got something until
Until we don't.
something happens and we don't.
And we don't. That is
And
true.
we don't.
That is true.
So, with that said, is there anything that any of the moms on the panel would like to say before we wrap up for this evening? What about you, Stantavia? Is there anything that you would like to share? Have you received something that maybe you came to the table to receive? Have you been able to give the information that you wanted to give and share with folks?
Absolutely. Am I on mute? Oh yeah, absolutely. This your film was great. Like me, my son. I also have a 16-year-old daughter, and you're right. When you changed your voice, I was like, ooh, or whatever. I was like, she being for real now. But like you said, I'm happy that you did do that because, like you say, they look at these people, our kids, as grown adults. I mean, because you're big, because you're small, it don't matter. You are a threat, and they want to neutralize the threat.
That's right.
So I'm happy that you did that in that film. We sat down, and I watched it twice. So I watched it by myself first. So I was like, well, let me look at this first, because Miss Cynthia said she cried and had to stop it a couple times. Let me see what she talking about twice, right? I was like, let me see what she talking about. And then I was like, okay, yeah. The second time I was like, I need my kids to watch this or whatever. Just the role playing, and like you say, how to respond instead of react.
Yep.
Like those were all very important nuggets that you highlighted in your film. I'm very, very, very proud of you. You did a
Oh,
great
wow.
job.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You
Yes.
did a great job. Your
Thank you so
messaging-
very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Your
Oh,
messaging was
man.
clear and to the point. And, I think that is something that the world needs to see. Like they need to see it from our eyes, because you're right. And another thing, real quick, I'm happy with how you started it off. Like,
Yep.
what does the talk mean in your house?
Mhm.
Because it's like it just took a dark turn once it got to the Black family.
Ooh,
Yes,
right.
it did. Yes, it did.
Like everybody else is all cheesing and white, and we talked about sex and being responsible and how to be dating responsibly.
Yep.
But then it's like, man, that thing got dark when it got to us. We just want our babies to come home. We teach them
Amen.
not to get killed. Like it was such a difference. So great job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate you and everything that you said. And I'd like to hook up with you ladies behind the scene and exchange information and see what
Oh, yeah.
this looks like in terms of a movement.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks so
You're
much.
welcome.
Yes. Now, before we go, is there anyone who would like to give some information to the public out there? Now, don't put yourself on blast if you don't want the world to contact you, okay? But if you're open to that, go ahead and give some information. Let us know who you are, your organization, if you're part of an organization, how you can be contacted and what you're about.
Okay, well, they can follow Safe Coalition NC. We do a lot of different things from policy reform. They can also follow Action NC. That's political, get out the vote, giving you information on candidates. And they can also follow my grandbabies organizations, which is the Little Listeners. And they do a lot of mentoring and motivating and encouragement, resources and support. So those are some of the orgs. And you can follow me, Miko Chosen, the most infamous, straight to the point.
Thank you. Thank you. And say the 4 again. So we know we can follow Miss Miko Chosen. What are the other 3? Say it one more time for everybody.
Safe Coalition NC. That's 1.
Mhm.
You have Action NC. Then you have the Little Listeners.
Okay. The Little Listeners. Okay. Everybody got that? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. What about you, Benita?
I'm just a regular old girl. I barely know how to get on Facebook. Yeah, they ask me to come and get on Zoom. I don't know nothing about this stuff. My name is Benita Winchester. You can catch me on Facebook. That's about it.
Well, that's enough. We'll all look
And I usually follow up under. I usually follow up under her.
Benita's telling the story. Benita does a walk in memory of her son every year.
Oh,
May
okay.
the 20th.
Didn't mention it.
Yeah, I do it every year, May the 20th. And we come out and it's gained strength, you know. And I remember one day I did, it was pouring down rain and they said, Mom, you still gonna do it? Yes, until my last breath on May the 20th.
Amen.
Every year I hold the march, and I march from where it began and where it ended at, where his life ended at. And then I have a host of friends that, you know, that come out and help me celebrate this thing, because instead of mourning it on that day that it was done, I try to celebrate it, you know, and I try to educate the kids, and I get the people to bring your kids out, bring your grandkids out, so they can march and know what this is all about, why we're doing it, you know, what happened. We're gonna keep it real. This is what happened, you know. And then when we get done with the serious part, with the march, we come back here and we eat and laugh and play in games, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing. So, you know, if you're not busy May the 20th, come out and see what we do.
I'll be there.
I appreciate it.
Catch me July the 20th at the Lynx Light Rail on Old Powerful. I do that every year for my son. It's where they stole his life at, and we just go and, you know, come together, share a few memories, do a balloon release. I make sure the memorial site is together. I do 2 events, his birthday and his death date. Faithfully, July the 20th is at the Lynx Light Rail. So,
Okay, at the Lynx Light Rail. And Benita, where was yours? Where does yours start?
It's on Sylvania Avenue. That's off of North Tryon and off of North Graham.
Okay. Listen, I want to take the time to thank all of you beautiful Black mothers who are out there on your grind. If your sons are not here, the fact that you're willing to stand in for other mothers, lift other mothers up, their families, to be an ear and to be a surrogate mother for their children, that is so strong and so powerful and needed in our community. A lot of times, other cultures don't understand why we are the way we are, how it is that we're able to so lovingly open our hearts and open our homes to anybody and everybody who needs us. And I think this panel discussion gives a perfect depiction as to some of what motivates us individually and as a community and collectively. So I want to thank Ms. Watkins again. Your film was absolutely powerful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes, you're the reason for the conversation.
Thank you.
And to all of you strong women out here, I'm just so glad that I had a chance to at least come back into the room with you and to continue the discussion with you. And I can't wait to connect with you all after this. Go ahead, Ms. Watkins. What were you going to say?
I just want to say to the women on the panel, thanks again. And if they could put their information on the inside of the chat, so that we could all exchange information. And anyone looking to follow me can do so on Facebook at Baybay Carter, BAYBAYCARTER, or on Instagram at Bayo Banks the Billionaire, one word, 132. And yes, okay, great. I see them putting their information in the chat. I'll put mine in the chat as well. And thank you. You're a wonderful host. And my love to those who stood in today who lost their children. And I'd like to be in touch with you guys to keep you encouraged and to do what I can, you know, because it takes a village.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it
Thank
does.
you for having us.
Thank you, everybody. Has everyone had a chance to put their information in the chat before we go?
I'm going to put mine in there right now.
Let me see if I
Okay.
know how to do that.
Okay. While we're doing that, thank you everyone who has joined us on Facebook Live. I know that this conversation has meant something to someone. I know that the conversation and the information that these women, these strong women have shared about their own experiences has empowered another mother out there to keep going, to not give up, no matter how much or how hard it is to keep their hands on their children, on their sons. Thank you to these women for sharing with us how we can continue to do that And in Miss Benita's words, I believe it was, they're worth it. They are worth it at the end of the day. So thank you, ladies, for this. And you all stay in touch. We'll be in touch. And I can't wait to see your next project, Miss Watkins.
Yep.
Oh yes. That's gonna. I was just putting my stuff in the group chat. I will keep you all definitely updated. I'm working on a project now where aptly called, it's related to the projects, growing up in public housing, and you know, the richness of it. You know, people have their own idea of what that means, and kind of look down on growing up in public housing. But I would like to share another light. And so yeah, definitely I will keep you updated and in the loop.
Thank you. Thank you. So to all of you beautiful ladies, I think everybody has everything you need.
Yes.
Everybody good? All
Yes,
right.
we are.
Okay, thank you so much again. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all the next time.
All right.
Absolutely. And
Blessings
thank you.
to everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, ladies.
You too.